Hello there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. And today's projects are all focused around Simon Says Stamp's April 2022 card kit called Life is a Party. So this kit is very festive. It's filled with a lot of fun products that you can use to make birthday themed projects or other celebratory cards. So I'm going to be using the kit contents today, and I'll show you 4 different things that I made with the kit. One of which is this 5x7 card. I've kind of been playing around with the 5x7 size a little bit more lately, and so this one is really cool because it actually does some embossing on pattern paper. So what I did was I took a piece of the pattern paper and I cut it to a 4x6 size. Then I stuck it inside of the Dimensional Stars embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. And I'll put it inside of my die cut machine and put it on the proper setting for embossing an embossing folder. Once I take it out, you can see we get these really cool stars on top of the pattern paper. It creates a nice texture. So this is going to go behind my elements that'll go on the front of the card. I'm going to mat this with some white cardstock and another piece of the pattern paper from the kit that this one is cut to a 5x7 size. I'm going to pull out the stamp set and figure out what images and sentiments I want to use. I picked out the sunglasses, which I'll stamp with peony ink from Simon Says Stamp onto white cardstock. I did stamp it twice because I didn't get a perfect impression the first time around, so that's the nice added bonus about using the MISTI is that you can just restamp right over top of where you just stamped. So I stamped it twice, and then on some black cardstock I'm going to stamp and then white heat emboss the sentiment that says "Time to Party." I also cut out the sunglasses. There are dies for this, and I'm going to use some of the glitter gel that's included in the kit to cover over the ink that I used on the sunglasses. You'll also notice that the sunglasses now have a bluish gray tone. That's because I took a Copic marker and colored the frame of the sunglasses just very simply with one color to give them some contrast. After I glued everything onto the front of my card, I put a few stars onto my card that I cut from the Mini Star Party die, and I just used some holographic cardstock to cut those out, and I'll glue these down with some Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue. I love how this card sparkles and catches the light between the sunglasses and those holographic stars, and then those dimensional stars in the background add a lot of nice depth. Speaking of that Dimensional Stars embossing folder, I wanted to use that again. It's a really cool folder, and I thought I would go ahead and emboss my die cut with that folder. So I used the new Balloons Trio die set that's included in the kit, and I die cut it from a couple of different colors of cardstock. I embossed one of the balloons with the Dimensional Stars embossing folder, and then the other balloon I covered with some of that Stickles glitter gel that's included in the kit. And then that final balloon in the center, that one I stamped with some black ink using one of the sentiments from the stamp set. I used foam tape to attach these balloons onto some pattern paper. This is a 4¼ by 5½ inch card, so a standard A2 size. You'll also notice I wrapped a bit of wire around the bottom of the balloon on that one that's in the center. So my plan is that I'm going to wrap that wire around the back side of this card panel so that way it hides it, but it gives this whole entire card a really nice finish with that shiny balloon string. I also like that it keeps its shape because it's made from wire. I'll use foam tape to attach this panel onto my white card base. This is the top folding white card base from Simon Says Stamp. And then the last finishing touch that I'm going to add to this card are some more of those holographic stars. I had die cut a whole bunch of them from some holographic cardstock, and I'm just going to use that same craft tacky glue to attach these down around the balloons on my card. This card is super sparkling and it catches the light just like the first card. And it's a fun way to be able to mix those different pieces, which are the embossing folder and the glitter gel, and use them to embellish the balloons. Now I decided to use those balloon dies again this time, and I'm going to put them into a shaker card. So I have this very cool disco ball paper. I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to the back side of that paper, covering all 4 edges, because I'm going to turn this into an edge-to-edge shaker card. I need to make sure that I cover all 4 sides. Then I'm going to take a piece of plastic, this was from some stamp packaging, and I'm going to have this layered up underneath of my paper. So the paper is going to get laid face down into the plastic, and then we're going to wrap the edges of the plastic around our panel. That way I create a pocket and then I can fill it with a bunch of different sequins. So I used some clear sequins, and then I also decided to pop in some silver stars. These really I thought looked nice with the disco balls. Then I'm going to start die cutting my black glossy cardstock, which is from Simon Says Stamp, from the balloon dies that are included in the kit. I die cut about 5 balloons, and then I'm going to slip them inside of my shaker card, making sure that they're all facing up. And finally, I'll throw in some rose gold sequins. So once I have the shaker filled to my liking, then I'll go ahead and just fold over that last edge of the plastic into the double-sided adhesive, trim off any excess plastic that's hanging off the sides, and then we're good to go. We have this really cool shaker card made with those fun balloons, and I just love how they end up floating around in here once you get everything mixed up. To embellish my card, I thought I would go ahead and put this onto a 5x7 size card. So I have some patterned paper here that I've trimmed down and layered up behind my shaker panel. I'm going to stamp and emboss the sentiment from the stamp set with some white embossing powder that says "Time to Party." And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set this and fussy cut it out. I also wanted to make sure I had a little bit of some sort of festive element behind my sentiment. So I pulled out this burst die from Simon Says Stamp, and I die cut it from some white glossy cardstock from Simon. I used foam tape to attach the sentiment on top of the burst, and then I'll attach that burst with a piece of foam tape onto my shaker card. So what this does is this creates a nice focal element behind my sentiment, but it doesn't distract from the rest of the card. It just makes the sentiment look really special. So here's my super cool shaker card using the balloons as a shaker element, a really fun way to be able to kind of stretch the use of those dies. Rather than using them as a focal point, we use them more as an embellishment. Okay, finally my last card. I'm going to use those balloons now as a stencil. So in your kit, you got white Yupo paper. And that white Yupo paper, of course, can be used with alcohol ink or for other types of fun techniques. However, one of the best things about Yupo paper is that it's very durable. So what you can do is you can die cut Yupo paper and then use it as a stencil because it can be wiped clean after adding some ink over top of it. So here I'm taking the ink that's included in the kit, saltwater taffy, the Distress Oxide ink pad, and I went ahead and ink blended over top of that balloon stencil that I created. I just used some tape to hold it down onto my project, and then I wiped it clean with a cloth. Nothing fancy, it's just a dry cloth, and I wiped off that extra ink that was sitting on top. Now I'm going to pull out another color of Distress Oxide ink, and we're going to ink blend through one of the other balloons. I die cut all 3 balloons from the white Yupo paper. And so as you can see, we're using these balloon die cuts as stencils. And we can just wipe each stencil clean as we use it so that we can add another color through that same stencil. So here I used that same shape of balloon originally for the pink color, and now I'm going to pull in some orange. And as you can see, because we were able to clean off the stencil, we're not contaminating the ink that we're adding through the stencil now. So it's a really great technique. And so what I did was I covered this entire background using different colors of Distress Oxide ink, one of which is the saltwater taffy that's in the kit. And then I also used Twisted Citron, Salvage Patina, Carved Pumpkin. I also pulled in a bit of squeezed lemonade and peacock feathers. So once I have gone ahead and covered this entire background with all these different fun balloons, then we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of paste over top of the stenciling. So I'm going to reapply those stencils that I made, and we're going to go ahead and take the Stickles glitter gel and start applying this through the stencil. Again, because we're using Yupo paper, even this glitter gel will be able to wipe right off of the stencil and we can still reuse it. So this particular Stickles glitter gel is called Galaxy, and the pink one is called Venus. You get both of these in your kit. I'm going to reapply that stencil again, and this time go ahead and cover up the other balloons that are included on my background here. As you can see, I have quite a few of them, so I'll cover all 4 with that glitter gel. After applying my glitter gel, I'll pull in one of the balloon string that's included in the stamp set, and I'll stamp this around my card using black ink. This is Simon Says Stamp Intense Black Ink, and I'm just using a clear block to be able to stamp these down onto my card. I also use the confetti stamp that's included in the kit, and some of the different colors of inks that I use to go ahead and ink blend these balloons, I'm using those same colors to now stamp the confetti. So this will add some nice texture around the balloons, and it will also give a more festive finish to my card. Next, I brought in a couple of those Distress Oxide ink colors, and we're going to do a bit of ink blending around the edges of this card just to soften them a little bit. I want the balloons in the center of the card to be the ones that are most noticeable, so by softening the edges, that's really going to draw your attention to the center of the card. Now I thought it would be fun to take the Dimensional Stars embossing folder and emboss this paper after doing all of our ink blending. And that's going to add some more confetti-like elements in the background. It doesn't really distract from the rest of the card, but it adds some nice texture and detail. I also splattered the card with a bit of shimmer spray from Brutus Monroe, and it adds a nice pearly finish to the card. I brought in the Let's Celebrate stamp from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that onto some green cardstock and emboss it with white embossing powder. Once I've set this, then I'll go ahead and cut it out, and we can then go ahead and put it on top of our card. Before I put it on though, I did want to add a little bit more of that Stickles glitter gel. Those things are so sparkly and pretty. I thought it might be fun to add some of that sparkle on top of the pink balloons. Now because I had already done so much extra to this card, I wanted to try to avoid covering up the balloon strings and getting the paste into the other balloons. So I'm just going to use my fingers, and I just quickly layered on some of that paste. You could have also used a brush too. And then I popped up my greeting onto the bottom corner of the card. So to finish everything up, I added one last final detail, and that was to glue some of those holographic stars onto the card. I think that's what's fun about this entire video, is that all of the cards feature stars and balloons, and so they're all very cohesive. Even though each card is completely different, they all use similar products, and they also have a very similar feel. So that was my 4 cards that I made using contents from the April 2022 card kit from Simon Says Stamp. It's very festive. It's a really fun card kit. And if you're interested in learning more about the kit, you can check out the link down in the video description or over on my blog. I have links to all of the products that I use there as well, so be sure to check that out. Until I see you all again, I hope everyone has a very wonderful day. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye!